have to be your biggest fan. And when things are really tough and they're really rough and nothing's working, but there's something inside of you that says, I just have to follow that. Because you don't know who you're going to meet, who you're going to meet, who you're going something inside of you that says, I just have to follow that. Because you don't know who you're going to meet, 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 who you're going to meet.
Hello, hello, hello. What is going on, everybody? It's a great, wonderful day. We're surviving the quarantine, and I'm here with the one and only Prejean McGrady. Katie, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
So, I saw a cool thing on Instagram. You posted a picture of your daughter running out on the lawn because Jesus was being processed, I think, on a truck.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
They were doing Eucharistic adoration through the streets, and your sister, not your sister, your daughter, is it Rose? Her name's Rose, right?
Rose, yeah.
She's running and just jumping for joy because Jesus is coming down the street. How is quarantine life going for you?
Well, we have a Jesus parade every week, so that's pretty great. We're surviving. We're in phase 1 as of today. So, we're making it through. Our toddler's super extroverted, so she misses people. I'm introverted. I'm like, I could do this forever. Like, I miss Target. That's really about it. Other than that, I'm good. I can pretty much get everything delivered or pick up by curb, so I'm good.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's been such an interesting time. We just went out, my wife and I, grocery shopping for the first time. It had been me. I've been going and getting out in the wild, trying to get all the stuff we need from the real world. And then Christina has been home with Eden, but we brought her to Christina's parents, and then we went out together grocery shopping for the first time in 2 months. And it was awesome. It was such
It's a date night.
It was, but it was hilarious to see my wife, like, she was like, oh my gosh, they have a deal on strawberries. And she was just so excited. I was like, you haven't been grocery shopping in a long time.
Yeah. We've curbside pickup everything. Is that how you say it? Curbside pick up.
Yeah.
Picked up.
Curbside to go, Kurt.
Yeah, which is like, I think every toddler mom in the world was already taking advantage of that. I was, for sure. But I did tell my husband the other day, I wish I could go back to Target just to wander the aisles and like find all those awesome clearance aisle deals.
Yeah.
But I'm also kind of, I'm pregnant, so I'm a germaphobe anyway, and already like on edge. And so now I'm like super on edge. So I'm just gonna bide my time and wait. We're gonna do a parking lot mass this weekend, even though a lot of our churches are opening back up with people inside. There's a limited capacity, so it's like we'll sit in our car and we'll listen to it, and they'll bring communion out. And if I feel comfortable, I'm kind of nervous about how many hands have been touched and how many mouths, but that's just I'm just uber cautious about that kind of thing.
Is it liturgically appropriate for like the priest can consecrate the host and then not touch it, right? I mean, not the one that you're going to receive, and then just basically hold, what is it called? Not the
ciborium.
The ciborium.
So that would be that's my sister's a canon lawyer. We have had this conversation, the self-communicate conversation. So technically, I mean, there's kind of two schools of thought, and I'll just go off of what I know from her. And she's the real genius here. So if I get this wrong, you blame me, don't blame her. She probably said it correctly. But, we have lay ministers of Holy Communion, the extraordinary ministers of communion, because it's the priest's ordinary job to do it. These are certainly not ordinary circumstances. So I don't see why that wouldn't be a possibility. Like everybody could be commissioned as an extraordinary minister of communion and just be able to receive on their own. But
interesting.
My hesitation with it would simply be, does that lessen the reverence? And that's why I wouldn't want to do it. And I think, that's why some people are making the argument, I won't receive on the hand. If that's your preference, and if that's the way that you are called or you feel called to receive the Lord, I'm not going to step on your toes. So I don't know. Different places have done different things. We know for sure we can't put Jesus in a baggie. That's inappropriate and wrong. We can't do that. But there is a church in my diocese that's done drive-through communion. So like you pull up under the portico, they give you Jesus through the window and you drive off. And we haven't done it yet, but apparently people are loving it because, they feel connected to their community. So I just, these aren't ordinary times, even though we're in Easter. We're not in ordinary time yet. We're in Easter. Sorry,
you're right.
Forgot about that. But these are certainly not ordinary times. And I think creativity is needed.
Yeah, no, I love it. I've seen on in the Catholic Twitter world, those pictures of drive-through confessions. I've not seen it locally anywhere. I have not driven by and been like, oh, look, wonder what's going on over there. It's not a ChickfilA.
Yeah, we had it. Well, ChickfilA should have been in charge of this whole thing. We would have had all the tests done within the first week, everybody fed and masked back and running. And they've got cow masks now. It's the most adorable thing. A bunch of my former students work at the local ChickfilA, so I patronize them regularly just because I like to see those kids. And it's Jesus's chicken, but we just everybody has to figure out how to operate and how to survive, and hopefully by August we're back to normal.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see. Well, thank you, Katie, for coming on the show. You are a speaker, a writer. You've been a teacher. I don't know. Are you still a teacher?
I'm not. No, I've been out of the classroom for 3 years.
Nice. And you podcast with your husband, The Electric Waffle, because you're an Office fan. Are you claiming to be the biggest Office fan? We have a game we're going to do at the end of the show to see if this is true.
I don't know. Like every now and then I miss a reference that my husband makes. And I don't know if I can steal that title from Father Mike Schmitz, who's like a diehard Office fan.
Is he really? That? No, I did not know this.
We mainly communicate in Office quotes and GIFs back and forth to each other. And every now and then I miss like a reference that he'll make, and he'll have to like test me on it later. But I'm a large Office fan. If you're watching the live stream, you can see Michael Scott is in the background.
I
have a couple of Dundies up on the wall.
This is
but
fantastic.
We have our Wi-Fi network is called Shroot Farms. And we announced our most recent pregnancy with Scott's Tots t-shirts. And so, I mean, we are committed.
That's amazing. Committed. I mean, the fact that you made your new coming baby a Scott's Tot, that's pretty committed right there.
Oh, yeah. Rose still wears her regional manager shirt, and we have a little assistant to the regional manager onesie for the baby when she comes. My mom thinks it's ridiculous and absurd, but we love it.
It's the best background show in the world.
It is. Yeah, I'm back on Parks and Rec right now because I did a rewatch in quarantine of The Office from beginning to end. But it's my baking show. So like if I'm in the kitchen cooking or cleaning or baking, I've got to have something on. Yep. And I'd rather it be something I like than something I have to pay attention to.
I love it. So let's rewind now and let's go into Katie Prejean. Maybe not McGrady at the time, right? Just Katie Prejean. What made you Catholic? Like, what brought you into this world? And go from there. Yeah. That's the weirdest way of framing that.
Well, their names are Marie and Garland. They met in the 80s, and I came in 89.
Fantastic.
But I was born Catholic. I say that I was baptized Catholic at 4 months old. Can you say that you're born Catholic? We're all born pagan, right? And then we're raised Catholic. So I'm a cradle Catholic properly. Was in Catholic school my whole life. And I think kind of the story of a lot of Catholic school kids is that there's like a choice to make when you graduate high school, especially if you went to a Catholic high school and mine wasn't nominally Catholic, but like it wasn't the place where we were doing praise and worship every Friday and having adoration every week by any means.
Right.
Is this for me? Like, is this real, or is this just something that I kind of had to go through? And my parents, my mom's a convert, and that's really important to my story because she was raised Southern Baptist, in a family that they didn't hate Catholics, but there was definitely like a misunderstanding and a distance from Catholics. And so when she met my dad and realized, wait, Catholics don't worship Mary. And then like she grew in relationship with Mary, and that was huge for her. And Mary was a huge part of her conversion story. So being raised by a lifelong Catholic and a convert who was very zealous always made faith a huge part of our lives. My mom collects nativity sets. Like she's got hundreds of them, and they're set out at Christmas time. And like you walk into Bethlehem 2.0, you need living room.
You need to have a picture posted on Twitter.
Yeah. Well, I told her, so she hasn't set them all up the past couple Christmases because there's a toddler running around who grabs and breaks things.
Okay. That's
but
fair.
I told her this next Christmas, Rose will be 3 and Claire will be an infant. So like this might be the sweet spot to be able to do like a tour of all of these. And they're from around the world, and they all have stories, and they're super unique. So kind of, I think the story of a lot of us that are cradle Catholics is that you grow up in such a Catholic environment that there has to come a point where you either own it or you don't. And so for me, that point came at the end of my high school career, and then going into college. I went to the University of Dallas in Irving, Texas.
Nice.
I was accepted at Franciscan and had paid my deposit and was like on my way. And my mom just made a passing comment that, you can't come home for Thanksgiving because it's Ohio and you live in Louisiana. We live down here. And something in me I didn't want to be that far from home. And I'm really grateful that I made that decision and kind of felt that tug to stay closer, because I was still able to come home on weekends when I wanted to. It was only 6 hours away. My little sister was in high school, so we were able to still remain close or grow closer. As she was in high school and I was in college. All that to say, when I got to UD, I realized there was kind of this stark moment my freshman year where I was skipping mass. And I always hesitate when I tell this story, because it's like people are like, oh, you skipped mass? Don't you get paid to talk about Jesus? It's like, yeah, there's a difference between like, this is my job, but I also have to still live it.
Yeah.
But I, every Sunday of my life, I got driven to church with my family. And now I had to just walk across campus, but it was a choice and I wasn't making it.
Right.
And my mom called me at one point and we were just visiting, and she said, hey, you haven't told me anything about like mass at school. Like, how are the homilies? Is the music good? Like, are you sitting with people that you know? And I had to lie. And when you lie to your convert Catholic mother about going to church at a Catholic university, that's kind of like a wake up call of, okay, maybe I should be taking this seriously. Like, maybe I should be going. So I never do anything halfway, right? That's a Ron Swanson. You can't, halfway two things. You got to whole way one thing. I'm editing, of course. And so I started going to daily mass, and that changed my life.
Nice.
It became a practice between me and my closest friends, where we would go to either noon mass and then go have lunch together, or go to 5 o'clock mass in the evening and then go eat in the cafeteria to get, your college. So like you just kind of set this routine for yourself. And that was the anchor to my day. Yes. And it just, something happens. Like you eat Jesus enough, you consume the Eucharist enough, you start to change. Like even if it's just, you're doing it at first because you don't want to lie to your mom anymore, but then eventually like the Eucharist starts to work on you, and your heart starts to soften, is the way to say that phrase. So I decided to study theology, and then it became Jesus is my job. And so I've had, my fair share of like having to recommit to, this isn't just what I talk about, but this is someone I'm in relationship with. We can get into that, but that really was, there comes a point where you have to make a choice of, am I in this or not? Because there's no way to halfway do it. Like you can be a nominal Catholic, and you can be like a halfway Christian and say like, oh yeah, well, I was raised Catholic. But how are you going to account for that at the end of your life? Like, are you going to stand before Jesus and say, well, I went sometimes? Like that's a horrible thing to have to say,
Yeah, no, totally. It's so interesting. Like you said, going from, just kind of having Jesus in your life to now Jesus is my job. You have some really cool, great books that kind of share that story a little bit with Room 24 and Follow. One of the things that really struck me was I think it was Follow, where you share the story of a teen who came up to you after a conference talk and basically shook you up because go ahead and share that story and dive into that. That was, it struck me.
It was, and I think the Lord, he appears to us in a variety of ways. And when you work in youth and young adult ministry with college students or high school students, it's usually those college and high school students that smack you upside the head with the word of God, and they don't even realize it. So I was speaking at this event in Los Angeles, City of Saints, one of my favorite events to do. And I got off the stage, and I always joke as a speaker, and you've probably experienced this, when you were on, like you just know when you've given a good talk. I think that's what I'm going to miss the most this summer, is just like that feeling of knowing I've just shared the gospel really, really well, and I know people's hearts could be changed by this, and I can't wait to see what happens next. Like I'm going to miss that. But so I get off the stage, and I'm a huge introvert. So speaking on stage and like exposing your soul in a variety of different ways. And even if it's like a story that you've told many, many times before with punchlines that you've practiced, like there's still this vulnerability. And Brené Brown calls it the vulnerability hangover. Like so I come off the stage, all I wanted to do was go sit down in the green room and have a Coke. And this kid like cuts around the corner. He wasn't supposed to be back there. And he calls out to me. He's like, hey lady. And he calls me over. And so I like walk over there, and he just looks at me and he says, how do you get to know Jesus? Like who is he, and how do you get to know him? And I'm thinking to myself, I just literally gave a 45-minute keynote about that. Like a very well-timed, perfectly structured, had slides and stories and jokes. And it's like that moment where the teacher gives the whole lesson and at the end explains the homework assignment, and the kid goes, wait, do we have your homework? So like I felt I was a little mad, but I was also kind of like, maybe I didn't give as good a talk as I thought I did. And so I kind of muddled around. Like I gave him the outline of the talk I just given. I could tell it wasn't satisfying him. He just kind of shrugged his shoulders and was like, I don't know. You seemed like you might know him. So I thought you could help. And he just like walked off. Like his youth minister came and found him and took him to dinner. And I'm standing there like, I am the worst person in the world. Like I literally just gave a talk to 2,000 people, but I couldn't have a conversation with one person about the most essential truth, which is Jesus loves you, wants to be in relationship with you, and your life will change forever. And so my husband and I were on the flight home the next day, from LAX to Dallas, and then Dallas down to Lake Charles, I just pulled my computer out and just started brain dumping, and pitched a book to Ave Maria Press that got rejected because it was way too much. It was way too much content to try to explain it. And so then we simplified it, and that's Follow, which is basically just, there are 4 things that we're all called to do to be in relationship with Christ, right? Obviously we have to pray, we need to read sacred scripture, invest ourselves in a sacramental life, and go be the hands and feet of Jesus Christ and serve. And so those 4 things, right? Prayer, scripture, sacraments, and service can anchor us in that relationship. And I'll be very honest, I wrote it, and I still have to read it every now and then to remind myself of those things. Cause like, it's easy to say, but it's hard to practice. And I'm grateful that they let me write it.
That's awesome. So that was the second book, yeah?
That's my second book. Yeah.
Second book. And with Room 24, that's kind of documenting your experience from, you were a teacher.
Yeah. I was yeah.
And then you basically transitioned, shockingly, yes, into ministry. Tell that story.
Yeah. I was so I was a high school freshman theology teacher for 5 years. Loved it. Was a parish youth minister at the same time. And so Room 24, my student, you teach 14-year-olds about Jesus. They say wacky things. And so I was just kind of collecting their quotes, writing them down. I'd post them on Facebook every now and then with the hashtag. And so we compiled this book, basically my first 2 years in the classroom. Here's what I learned. This was a crash course in evangelization. I mean, any focus missionary or new youth minister can relate to half the stuff that's said in there. Cause like you often find, like there's one story in there. I think it's chapter 3. My students set up a Christian Mingle profile for me without telling me. And this guy ended up stalking me on the internet, and they thought it was hysterical, but a little creepy. I did not marry that guy. Thank God. I married a different guy I met on the internet, but the lesson of that is like the students that you invest in, the people that you grow in relationship with, end up caring about you just as much as you care about them, because they see that mutual relationship. So that's where Room 24 came from. I left the classroom in May of 2017, and my husband went to a different school, started teaching biology, loves it. I decided, for our family life, and I had a lot of opportunities knocking to go speaking and to continue to write. And now I'm project manager for Ave Explorers, which is this program with Ave Maria Press, my publisher. It just made more sense.
Great podcast too.
Oh, thank you. Yes, to jump into the freelance world, and it gives us a lot of freedom. Sometimes during a pandemic, it can be weird, but for the most part, it's a great job. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. What was that like for you to transition out of just the regular day-to-day job of doing ministry or teaching or whatever into now you're making your own schedule and doing all this freelance ministry stuff? What's that like?
That's a great question. When you're a teacher, there is so much of your time and energy that's not your own, that I didn't mind. I by the third year of teaching, you've got it kind of down to a science. My daughter likes to ring the doorbell when she comes back in from a walk. So
that's
nobody's
cool.
here. She just likes to ring the doorbell if you hear it in the background.
I like it.
And I'm happy to talk freely about, I didn't leave the classroom voluntarily. My contract wasn't renewed after there was some conflict within administrative things. And, it was really hard. Like I left the classroom because I was forced to leave the classroom. And it took a few months for me to realize that, and it's going to sound cheesy as all get out, right? God closes a door and then he opens a window. And so many people kept saying that to us after everything happened. And I'm being vague, but there are other podcasts that I tell the full-blown story or different Twitter posts. But I got a text message from a friend of mine that said, it's okay if you liked the door that you were behind when it closed. Like, it's okay if you were, you liked being there, and that you mourn that, and that you grieve that. And so when I entered into the freelance world of, I get to set my own schedule with travel, I get to write when I want to, and I don't have to necessarily worry about who's covering my classroom when I'm gone, because I can go do this parish mission for 4 days without any guilt. And I can bring my kid with me if I want to. There was kind of this moment of God sometimes gives us freedom when we need freedom. And then put structure back into our life when we need structure. And so being able to find the balance of that has been fun. My husband and I in quarantine have both been working from home more and more. So I usually get the mornings and he usually gets the afternoons to be in the home office, which gives us each really intentional, concentrated time with Rose, which is awesome. And then cool. 4 o'clock's our cutoff. We try not to be on the computers or do a whole lot of work after 4, and then, until she goes to bed. And that's been nice to try to create that structure. But I think the biggest difference was in a classroom and with youth ministry in a parish, you've got 100, 150 kids that you're with every day.
Yep.
And as a speaker that gets to travel, I get to parachute into these places and spend a couple days. And then you leave, but what the beauty of the internet is that you can continue to maintain these connections through Instagram and through Twitter and through Facebook postings and that kind of thing. Continue to form those relationships. And so it's just finding that balance has been sanctifying in some sense. I don't know that I'm always good at it, but I'm trying.
Yeah, no, that's got to be hard for sure. Chris Paget once told me, I was youth minister to his kids, and he said, Nick, your job as a youth minister is the hard job. I just come in and set a fire. You have to contain it all and make sure it keeps going.
Absolutely.
And I thought that was just such a a cool perspective. Tell me about that. You shared how you like now online you can kind of maintain those relationships. Look, what has that happened for you? Have any cool stories for you went to this conference and then such and such followed up with you and it was just
a few. These in 2020, young people have no reservations about like sending you an Instagram message. Sometimes with Safe Environment, I have to like send back with another person on the other end too, just to be safe. Cause it's like, you're 16 and you're pouring your heart and soul out to me. And I want to make sure that there's another adult in this conversation. But mainly especially with young adults and speaking at different college events or going, to events where there's chaperones that are young adults and then being able to continue to grow and to get to know them in that regard. I did a parish event in Georgia and became really close to the family, and we still keep in touch, and I'm Facebook friends with everybody. That's and we cool. Send each other Christmas cards. A lot of the relationships that form on the road. And I think anybody that's watching this, sometimes there's this question of, especially like a Steubenville, like, do all those people up there like each other? It's like, yeah, like a lot of us are really good friends that are in group texts together or like hang out, like our families, our kids are friends when we get the chance to be together. And so those relationships are oftentimes then also created with people that nobody else would ever know in parish communities. My last event was in March, and had I known it was my last event, I don't know that any of my talks would have been different. I think I might have appreciated being on the road more. But it was with this little tiny parish community in Missouri. And like, I got home on that Wednesday afternoon. The priest texted me to let me know that the check would be in the mail, and just to make sure that I was, was I feeling okay? Like, did I make it home safely? Not like the coronavirus could have gotten me within 24 hours, but he just wanted to check on me. Yeah. And then like that weekend, he texted me to just say, hey, I offered mass for you and your family, because I know like you're self-isolating for 10 days because you've been on, in airports. And then like we just kept texting, and now Father Rich and I like text back and forth every couple of days. And it's like I almost have this new pastor, because I went and did this event, and like I'd met him before, and obviously he liked me enough to hire me. But now there's this, like, he can talk to me about, social media things, or if he has a question about live streaming, and I've asked him for prayers, or I've sent him funny pictures of Rose, just to keep his spirits up. So that kind of thing has definitely happened.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So you, it's crazy. This is a crazy story to me. I just think it's awesome that you did this, but you get called from, I think, a cardinal or a bishop, and they invite you to be on, what is it, a panel or something for the Synod on young people.
Yeah, I was a representative for the U.S. at the pre-Synod in March of 2018.
One of two people,
Three.
From the U.S.?
3 of us.
One of 3 people from the U.S.? That is amazing. How does that happen? And what is that phone call like? I feel like this is like the papal nuncio calling you, being like, Pope Francis has selected you to be a bishop. Yeah.
Well, it was a little disconcerting because my daughter had just pooped on me. So like I was literally covered in baby poop when the phone rings, and it's my bishop, who's a family friend who came to my wedding. Like my mom does his taxes, but he actually kind of, my mom does. Yeah. She's a CPA. She does most of the priest taxes in her diocese. Maybe that's why they all showed up to my wedding. But they're great guys. And I love him dearly. So he kind of let the cat out of the bag because the invitation hadn't come yet from the USCCB. He called me a couple hours early, but he basically just let me know that he'd gotten off the phone with the conference and had told them, she's not a heretic, and I was going to get to go to the Vatican for this meeting. And it was the first of its kind. The synods happen in the church all the time, but normally these consultant gatherings happen beforehand, and they're very low profile, and like nobody knows who's there, and it's not like in secret, but it's like nobody cares. Like, who cares about the meeting before the big meeting? Yeah. This was the meeting before the big meeting because Pope Francis really wanted to talk to young people. And so I got the invitation. Of course I said yes. We started working out the logistics, bought the flight. And I finally asked the folks at the USCCB, I was like, I didn't apply for this. There was no I didn't send in a video. There was no, nothing. Like, I literally didn't know anything. And then they said, oh, well, Christus Vivit was supposed to talk to you. And I was like, what? And they said, didn't Chris text you? And I said, like, in October, and I just had a baby. So I was not, and I scroll back through my text messages, and sure enough, early October of 2017, Christus Vivit, who's a good friend of mine from ministry stuff.
My wife works for him.
He's awesome. I love Chris.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
And he's kind of the dad of a lot of speakers because he's taught so many of us just how to navigate the waters.
Yep.
And he had texted me, "How old are you? And do you have a passport?" And I remember reading that text message in like the middle of the night while I'm nursing my baby and texting him back, I'm 28 and yes. And like, that was it. That was the end of it. I never heard anything ever again. Come to find out, Chris sits on a USCCB committee and had gotten the phone call from from Archbishop Chaput, who said, "I need names," because he was going to get to pick names. And Chris gave him my name and said, "She's Orthodox. She travels. She knows her stuff." And that's how it happened. Yeah. So it was I texted Chris not long after that, and I was like, "This is all your fault." And he said, "Yeah, sorry." Like he didn't let me know that it was happening. So I got to go. It was basically a 10-day all expense paid trip to the Vatican. We stayed right on the outskirts of the city, just because we were housed at this hotel and at this seminary. The 300 of us from around the world, and I'm still friends with many of the people. My roommate was from China, and fortunately has been healthy and safe through all of this. She's actually been down in the Philippines studying, so I don't even think she was in China proper while all of this has been going on. And we got to basically just spend, it was like Catholic summer camp on steroids with Italian wine. Like that's really the best way to describe it. I think of like focus conferences or like Seek, and I think, okay, imagine that really small and at St. Peter's, and that's what we had. Like it was
and at St. Peter's.
And at St. Peter's, and we got to carry the palms for Palm Sunday Mass, and shake the Pope's hand, and everybody got. It was remarkable. It's crazy to me that it was 2 years ago, but yeah, time flies, and it was a real honor. It was a real privilege to get to do it. And I think back to now that we have Christus Vivit, we have the document that Pope Francis wrote about ministry with and to young people. I can think back to conversations that happened in those rooms and things that were said that very clearly influenced that document. Like even to the point where he quotes the Synod, he quotes the pre-Synod, he talks about what young people from around the world shared. And that is something I'm going to hold on to for the rest of my life. Like I'll be able to hand my daughter that document someday and said, Mommy left for 10 days when you were 7 months old because of this, and that's pretty cool. It's one of the greatest honors of my life.
That's really cool. That's really cool. You said at, I think it was CYMC, you were speaking on stage and you talked about, I think it was your roommate from China who was kind of amazed at the fact that in the States here we have these conferences and all these experiences, and they struggle to have Mass and all this stuff. Talk about that and how that struck you.
Yeah, we were, there was a bit of a language barrier. She spoke English. I do not speak Chinese or Mandarin at all, that was a wake-up call. How few Americans know languages from around the world, but how other countries totally speak English most of the time.
Right.
There's this, not like an American exception. It was like I was embarrassed by the fact that I didn't pay attention in Spanish class. But we were falling asleep one night, and if you've ever been in a Italian hotel room, like we had to move our beds apart from one another because they always shoved the twin beds together, and we had a little nightstand in between our beds, and jet lag was killing the both of us, so we weren't getting much sleep, and so we were just visiting. And then she just kind of started sharing, like unloading. When you're laying across the room from one another in the dark, vulnerability and your walls kind of come down, and she just started telling me about what it's like to be Catholic in a communist country, and what it's like to really like the threat of being arrested if they find out that you're gathering illegally, to even just do something as simple as pray the rosary. And so she had watched she'd like Googled me and had found a couple of Steubenville videos and just couldn't believe that, 4,000 people can show up to a basketball arena. And like, they didn't have to tell anybody that they were going other than their parents and like the conference organizers. And it cost $200. Like it just blew her mind. There was a young man from Egypt who the following summer flew to Ohio so he could see what Steubenville conferences were like in person, because he was so fascinated by this concept. And it shook me, because I think a lot of times, and I think we've seen this in the pandemic, and maybe this will upset some people when I say it, but there's a very corporate level to our Catholicism sometimes where we think we're owed the things that have always existed in these structures that have been created, and we want it on demand.
Right.
And that's why, I mean, it hurts to be separate from the Eucharist, and it hurts to know that our churches had to close for our own safety. But what hurts even more, in my opinion, is when people then like shake their fist and go, but I deserve it. And it's like, yeah, but there are literally people who walk 10 miles on a Sunday to go to mass in a cave with a homily that's not controlled by the government. And like, I shared a room with her for a week and a half and heard her stories of persecution. I'm not going to complain about mass being shut down for a few weeks because we don't want our priests to get sick and we don't want our people to get sick. Like, I'm not going to stand on that stage and say that. Like, I'm not going to get on that high horse.
Right.
One of the things that she said to me that I pray with often was that the people in China who are persecuted for their religion and who are fighting for Catholicism to not be this government controlled thing over there she said, pray for the church in China. We are suffering and we are being made saints. And I put it on a sticky note, and I have it in my Bible because I often will see it and think to myself, they are suffering and they're being made saints. And it kind of checks my own suffering, and it checks my own. Yeah. Now, not that our, comparing suffering is a bad game to play, because there's somebody always worse off than you. And like, you're allowed to feel your feelings and you're allowed to feel your pain, but right. It also helps to put it in perspective of, okay, I can get through today. Like, yeah, my toddler's screaming and I really just want to go to Target, and it's kind of annoying that I don't have these gigs anymore, but I'm not in a communist country, and I'm not being denied the opportunity to pray a rosary whenever I want, so that's been, I've checked my privilege a lot since that time with Pong Li is her name.
Pong Li. Nice. That's awesome. I love that. Pray for us because we're suffering or being made saints. That's really powerful. So you and your husband just teamed up, and you just released a book recently for Christmas and Advent. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a follow-up to our Lent book. So we have Lent one day at a time for Catholic teens, and Advent and Christmas one day at a time for Catholic teens. And it's just short, simple, daily reflections. It was probably the hardest book I've ever had to write because it's much easier to write verbosely. When you have a 300-word limit per page and your editor's like, no, this literally doesn't fit on the page. You have to cut 7 lines. And then you're writing with your husband.
You wrote the entire thing in Twitter and then just pulled the tweets. And
So I was editing it not long ago, like the final version, and they'd gone through with the red pen and said, you got to cut 4 lines here. Like literally were showing me the pages that are dropping off the bottom of the page. And I did that a couple of times. I put like I measured it out on my computer so that I would know exactly how much I was allowed to type rather than retype it. And it usually works out to like a 5-tweet Twitter thread. Like that's the length of the page.
Nice. That's awesome. What was that like writing a book with your husband?
There are more fun things to do with your spouse than write a book. I think he would say the same thing. We're vastly different people. Tommy is an extrovert and he processes things out loud. I'm an introvert, and like lock me in a room for a week and I'll come out with a book. So we basically split the assignment down the middle, and then we edit each other so that our voices are both there. And then when we pass it off to the editor, it's kind of a game to see if she can tell who wrote what. We've gotten much better. Like the Advent one was a smoother process than the Lent one. It's also shorter, so maybe that was part of it.
I like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump into the game show.
Yes.
And then we're going to close out this whole thing. So if you've listened through this entire live stream, I appreciate you. And now you get to the fun stuff because we have the one and only
so pumped for this.
Mr. Scarn. Mr. Scarn, how are you doing? Wait, he's connecting to the audio.
He's connected. There he is. That's how we do the Scarn.
She looks like Jenna Fisher.
Oh, that is the highest compliment you could have paid me.
You kind of do. Has anyone ever given that to you before?
No, I have Angela on my wall over there. I have an autographed picture of Angela in the corner.
I heard she's completely different than she is on her with her character.
I actually know her sister. Her sister is the stepmom of a good friend of mine. So I know that's kind of a weird connection. But
yeah, that's crazy.
I follow her on Instagram and she liked one of my posts one time. And that was the greatest moment.
That's the ultimate. Yeah, that's the ultimate. Fan appreciation right there.
Fan approval. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Angela's very underappreciated. I just did a rewatch, and she is hysterical. Her lines are always the best.
She plays it very well.
That's awesome. You guys been listening to the podcast, The Office Ladies?
Off and on. They finally hit their stride.
Yeah,
so I'm listening to it more.
agreed with that. It's tough because there's times where like they would just overpower with facts that I didn't really care about that weren't from the show. Like they were plugging their own stuff, which is fine. But, you know, I have a book that's called like I forgot what it's called. My wife got it for me, but it's like stuff that you would never know about. And it's a thick covered book about like how they came up with the stories. Like it's really cool. So I would, encourage. I'll send a picture of it to Nick, and he could send it to you. And
yeah, is it the Untold Story of the Office?
Yes,
it's got I just my husband probably won't watch this. I just ordered that for my husband for our anniversary.
Nice,
because that's our relationship. We buy each other Office stuff. He gave me Dwight face mask socks for Mother's Day. I was so excited.
Nice. That's fantastic. Okay, she might not be stumped then by these questions because she seems like.
Who knows? I don't know. I did just do a rewatch, so it is fresh in my mind as of like a week ago.
So to give people context, this is the one and only the Scarn, as we call him. He's basically a cousin in my family now. We met like almost 2 years ago when we were playing video games because I live on the West Coast. My family lives on the East Coast. It's how we connect. And one day we were jumping into a game with a rando, and our random partner was the Scarn. And I saw it and I said, as in like Detective Michael Scarn? He said, absolutely. And here we are 2 years later. He's basically a member of the fam. Member of the fam, Mr. Michael Scarn. Welcome to the show. Dude, it's great to have you. It's just it's so fun having this context because we're normally just, you know, headsets on and killing people on Call of Duty.
That's right. Virtually killing people.
Virtually killing people. I mean,
there's stress reliever.
Yes.
You just gotta let it out a little bit. Now, you both are huge Office fans. You got to go follow Katie on Twitter. Was it just Katie Prejean McGrady?
Yeah, just at Katie Prejean.
At Katie Prejean. Scarn, she's always tweeting Office quotes. So we're gonna see who is
subtly. Very subtly. Like I made pie and I just tweeted next up pies. And the true fans know what I'm referencing when you do that kind of thing.
Yes.
That's awesome. So whoever does not win this, I'm sending it back. You know, I'm just sending you guys back. All right. So here we go. We're just going to jump right into it and we'll just see how many. We're just going to keep a tally of points. Does somebody want to keep a tally of the points for me?
Let's see. I won't cheat. I've got some paper right here.
Yeah, I got to.
All right.
We'll each keep a tally.
All right, here we go here. All right, so what was Dwight's middle name, or what is Dwight's middle name?
Do we wait, hold on. So are we both saying it at the same time, or is it one question for one question for the other, or who says it first? Like, how do we do this?
Let's do question and answer at the same time. We'll just see who gets it right. Or if you don't get it right, then I'll tell you the answer.
Well, the answer is Kurt. But he also says danger.
Okay. Oh my God, that is amazing. So we're going to applause for that.
In the concussion, though, he says danger.
Okay. Wow.
He does.
Wow. Yeah. This is wow.
And he steals Michael's joke.
Yes. Yep. And the doctor. Is it red and swollen?
All right.
That's my joke.
This the name of the cat Dwight tries to give Angela.
Garbage.
Wow. That if there is one question you guys both don't know.
Because he kills Sprinkles.
He mercy kills Sprinkles.
Mercy kills, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That is so sad. That is so sad.
It is. It's the decline of their relationship and the start of the weirdest Andy storyline, but that's a whole
Oh my God, no kidding. I'm in that right now. I'm in the heart of it. He just gave Angela the ice sculpture.
The ice sculpture, the ice thing.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Andy he makes me mad because I relate with him so much. My wife says that I'm like Andy Scarn. I don't know if you think that as well.
You're early likable Andy. You're not late season Andy with the bad art.
Exactly.
Yeah. Late season 9 Andy was he just made me so mad. And
early
season selfish jerk.
Early season 8 he was great. And then he went to took his boat to the Bahamas and became a jerk.
We lose him.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What is Roy's brother's name?
Oh.
Kenny.
I think that's right, but I don't know.
Yeah. She says, hey, Kenny. Yeah.
So we got this. The Scarn is up.
There you
one.
go. Scarn's winning.
Well, to be fair, you know, it's like sometimes these are fresh in your head because, you know, when they took the jet skis and he's he brings them to the Pam's Art Show and she's like, hey, Kenny. And I just hear that in my mind.
You're in season 4 right now.
Yeah, I'm in season 4 right now. That's season 3.
Objectively, the best season is season 4.
Seasons 2 through 4, arguably the best ones. Season 4,
so good.
For sure, spot on. They start hitting their stride.
I didn't watch the final, 3 seasons. I watched through season 6. I stopped for the longest time. And then when Christine and I got engaged, we had all of our dates were just watching the rest of The Office. Because she said, how is this happening that you have not gotten
right.
to?
And I can understand that. Season 8 and 9, people are like, when Michael leaves, I stop. But you can't, that's cheating. You got to go through it all.
Committed. Robert California is also an unsung hero of that show.
I agree. I think he adds so much different style. Robert Cal. He's a lizard.
So with Robert California, you guys have to go look up St. John the Evangelist Catholic Church. Bear through our website. We're working on it. And but look at my pastor, his picture on our staff page. He is Robert California. Or if you like the Blacklist, what is it, Red Reddington?
Yes, my husband loves.
I swear, my pastor is literally. I think he actually was the guy on the show. He arguably could be. So go look at that.
I'm checking.
Now I'm on your website.
Go look at it. St. John, Vancouver. Yeah, St. John, Vancouver.
Tom?
Yep, Father Tom Black.
And the welcome, would I find it?
His picture might be on the main page, I think.
No, he's not.
Or just search Father Tom Black on Google. You'll find him.
Black, Bleck?
Yes.
Father Tom Black.
No. BELLEQUE. Yes.
Oh gosh, yeah, that would have never crossed my mind.
It's French. I believe it's French. He is Robert California. He is definitely Robert California.
He does look like Robert California.
He just needs the hair.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it weird?
He doesn't have dead eyes either. He looks much nicer than Robert California.
He is so much nicer and doesn't talk about the same things.
I would hope not. I'll be talking about geishas long past this time.
He's going to Africa to start up to help with the schoolgirls. Remember?
Eastern Europe.
Yeah, it's so bad.
What movie was The Office watching for Movie Mondays when interrupted by Jan?
Varsity Blues.
Yeah, Varsity Blues.
Varsity Blues. Oh my gosh, we got Scarn in the lead by 1. We've got, let's see, let's find a really hard one here.
I love how Pam walks in with all the popcorn and nobody wants it. It's such a great subtle moment.
Yes, please, thank
Another
you.
middle name. This one's hard. I feel like this might be hard. What is Holly's middle name?
I don't know that.
Hollis is her real name. If you look at her nameplate, it says Holly Flax. But her middle name, Holly. That's a tough one.
I don't know. I'm trying to think back to those seasons because we get two separate. Michael Gary Scott for sure.
I don't know Holly Flax's middle name.
Oh my gosh! Does that mean I get a point?
I
don't know if it works that way.
You stumped us, yeah.
Partridge.
Well, hold on,
Partridge.
wait. Let me just think real quick.
Partridge.
Oh, it is Holly. No, yeah, Holly Partridge Flax. Yep, you're right. Damn it.
Is that a maiden name? Was she married before?
I'm not sure. I wonder.
No, I think that's just her.
My question is, where do we find all these names? When does Dwight tell us his middle name is Kurt?
There's a moment where he definitely says Dwight Kurt Schrute, but there's also the Office wiki page where you can go find deep dive profiles of every character.
Well, in the hospital, the concussion when they take them,
it's fantastic that you guys know that.
Yeah, well, Michael's like, what's his middle name, or what's your middle name, Dwight? And he goes, Danger, and then Jim says Kurt. I can't believe I know that. Yeah, I'm so ashamed I know that.
That's amazing.
James Jimothy.
What is the name of the supermarket where Michael finds out Jan is pregnant?
Garrity's.
Garrity's, yeah. Which is
I know that
supermarket in Scranton.
My husband's from Scranton, so I've been to Garrity's. And we've eaten at the Chili's in Scranton many times.
How old is your husband, if you don't mind me asking? Because one of my really good friends is
32.
From there.
He just turned 32.
He probably my really one of my grooms at my wedding went to Scranton University, and he's from there, and he went to Holy Cross or something, or changed.
Okay. What's his name?
It was Matt. His name's Matt Martonic.
Matt Martonic.
He definitely, write that down and see if he knows, and they have to know each other.
Scranton's it's not a big town. That's for
it's
sure.
Not. Are you? Do you live on the East Coast, right?
No, I'm in Louisiana.
Okay.
My husband and I met online, and then
me and my wife too.
I started watching the show because he was living in Scranton. Obviously, he's from Scranton,
right?
I got hooked. It was our dating show, and now it's the soundtrack of our lives, the theme of our home.
Right on.
We have more office memorabilia and artwork. Do you remember when they put all the stuff on auction?
Yeah.
I bid. I didn't get it. I bid, probably a good thing that I didn't spend like $600 on this, but they were selling Dwight's keyboard and mouse pad. It went for like $1,000. It was all for charity. Like it would have gone to a good
Smithsonian, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. I really wanted to get the desk and like turn it into a bar at my house.
Yeah,
like, the front desk.
That would have been cool.
For a lot of money.
You can make mega desk.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I am allergic. This character is allergic to walnuts.
Well, we know D'Angelo's allergic to peanuts. Kevin, yeah, yep.
Kevin,
the brownies.
That's one.
But I'm going to power through it.
That
Give
one's
her the point. She definitely got it over me.
Is it tied up now? I think it's tied.
Yeah, I think it is 4-4. Kevin is my ultimate favorite character of the show.
His character progression or digression.
So why does he become? They make him very dumb.
Stupid.
By the end.
They do. I think they lean into the fact that every character is a parody of somebody that you know from your real life office, right? Like Oscar's your know-it-all, Angela's your stickler,
Meredith's
Kevin,
the drunk.
And like that corner specifically, everybody knows people like that in their office or classroom setting. Like everybody does. And so Kevin's just your lovable goof.
We call Oscar actually. Yeah.
I discovered that many of the characters, that's their real name. Like they're
writers.
Oscar and Angela are real names.
Creed.
Are their real names. Creed. Yep.
I think Phyllis is real. That's her real name.
Phyllis is real name. Yep.
That's fascinating. Who hired Daryl?
Who hired Daryl?
Yeah, who hired Daryl?
Who hired him? It was the guy it was the guy who died in season 2 or season 3.
His head gets chopped off. Ed Truck.
Ed Truck, yep.
Ed Truck hired me.
Ed Truck hired me.
Yeah.
That one's going to go to Katie.
Gabe listened to me.
That one's going to Katie.
Joe
promoted me.
Yeah. Also, Kathy Bates is in The Office. Can we appreciate that?
She is so good, too.
She liked the show. She wanted to be written into it. That's my favorite thing about it.
And she wasn't used nearly enough.
That is amazing.
Don't try to write him. A lot of people try to write him. Yeah. Don't try to write him.
Don't do it.
Don't try
What famous singer? What famous singer does Andy say owns the same Mac as Aaron?
John Legend.
No, it is not John Legend. No, it is not. What do you think, Scarn? You haven't.
Who is it?
Owns the same
Mac.
It's a.
I just watched it.
God. Oh boy, hold on. I have it.
5.
Somebody. Nope. No,
4,
wait.
3, 2. Go for it.
I said John Legend.
It's not.
Do you
John
know
Legend,
it now?
girl.
Do you know it now?
It's the girl.
It's a girl.
I don't remember.
Just
Gwen Stefani.
Gwen Stefani.
Oh my
that wouldn't
God.
be.
And that's a reference to the Black Eyed Peas, who play the corporate Christmas party that Robert California hates so much. And
it's
we get
pop
the
for
famous,
people who hate pop. It's rock for people who hate rock. Yeah.
We get the famous look
the
from
point.
DJ Novak where he points.
All right, here we go. This is going to be for 3 points to end out the show. This character went to the same high school as the most hated character by Michael Scott, Toby Flenderson.
The same high school in real life? Oh, Katie from season 1.
Wow.
What? I did not know that.
Bishop O'Hara, even though in the
that was how did you know that?
I never would have gotten Amy Adams.
Amy Adams. Well, I mean, not in the
famous actress
life.
now.
They just went there in the show.
In the show,
she says, but in
the one who sells the bags. That's right.
Yeah, Purse Girl.
Purse Girl.
Yeah, Purse Girl. And in the subtitles, instead of Bishop O'Hara, they script the subtitles a lot in Netflix, and it says Fisher Bohara, and I'm like, that's not right, but it's Bishop O'Hara. Yeah,
Bishop O'Hara is a real high school in Scranton, Pennsylvania. My husband would do confirmation retreats there every year.
Yeah,
that's
she
awesome.
Went there, and Roy tells him that they beat him 42-10 in football. Yeah.
Also, like, there's so many people that make appearances in this show that before they were like legit famous.
Yes.
She's one of them. You know, we watch Enchanted is a regular show in our home. Like a regular movie.
Robert California, was he on the blacklist yet?
Blacklist started like 2 or 3 years after The Office ended.
He was a guest star on Seinfeld one season too, but just for an episode. But yeah, James Spader was known for a lot of stuff at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve Carell hadn't really taken off until after the first season.
No.
Yeah, 40-year-old
version
version
coming out soon. So yeah, excited about that one.
Wow. Yes. So who do we have it at? Who won?
Well, I mean, he won. He totally took it with that one. I never would have gotten that. Though.
Scarn took it with that one.
I think as he should. If you're, I'm gonna have to go change my name back so that when I enter into meetings, I'm not Shroot Farms.
Shroot Farms. Oh, you changed your meeting.
I changed my name. Now it's going back. That's our Wi-Fi network. And the first time my mom came over after we'd set up our new Wi-Fi network, she just she sat down, she rolled her eyes, and she said, "Do we need to talk about boundaries and television?" I was like, "Mom, it's just a thing that we do in our marriage and our family."
Oh my gosh. Well, Scarn, thank you so much, brother. I'm going to ask you the question. I'm going to ask Katie, if you were dead in real life, you died, and you get called back, and they say we're going to let him pick. What is he going to be the patron saint of? You got to pick. You're the patron saint of what?
Patron saint of. That's a great question. Patron saint of sports.
Patron saint of sports. I like it. I'm surprised you didn't say Call of Duty.
Call of Duty
right away.
Yeah, I mean, after last night, with whatever the heck you were doing, spinning around in a circle on that map. Oh boy, I could have charged my controller, but I was like, all right, I'm getting off.
Don't see as bad as Jim, who plays Call of Duty.
Yeah. Nick's really, he could be really good, or he can be the worst player. He went 4-96 the other night. 4 kills, 96 deaths.
It's true. I got really bored, and so what I did was I kept running in front of people and throwing C4 on the ground and blowing myself up in front of them.
Yeah, you did that yesterday too.
Just cause. It was a fun time.
Quarantine. There's no rules.
Yeah, there's no rules.
It's a custom game. There's no rule in that
whatsoever.
But anyway, well, thanks for having me, though. I appreciate it, and I'll see you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm sure we'll do this again sometime. I think it was good. You can get more questions, Nick.
All right.
Trivia night with our spouses.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Scarn. Take care.
Thanks, guys. See you.
Bye. There we go. Cool. So, final questions for you.
Yes.
If you had to suggest a book to the listeners or viewers to take away with them, what would it be?
Can I do 2? Books are really hard for me to. Okay, so Divine Romance by. Oh yeah. I'm as you can see, a book person.
Yes.
Divine Romance by Fulton Sheen changed my life in college, and then Jesus Shock by Peter Kreeft, however you say his name.
That's awesome.
Both super short, super easy. You can put them in your pocket when you walk into a chapel. Highly, highly recommend.
I've heard of a lot of people have suggested Jesus Shock, and
it's excellent.
Not done taken the plunge yet.
It's the book that I met Peter Kreeft back in October and just gushed. We were speaking at a conference together, and I was just total fangirl. And I told him, I said, this book changed my life, and I asked him to sign a copy of it for me. He said, this is the book that took me the least time to write. I was like, of course, the one that took you 0 time is the one that intellectually blew my mind, because that's, you're a genius.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What a guy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So you get to the end of your life, hopefully don't die of coronavirus, but die of something. And you get called by the Pope, and he says, you did a great job helping me with that synod. What would you like to be the patron saint of, Katie?
I think I would be the patron saint of moms whose toddlers wake up in the middle of the night. That's a very specific thing, But when you are the mom of a toddler who wakes up at 1 a.m. asking for water and to go to the potty, you just need to cry out to a saint. And I want to be that person.
You want to be that person. Love that. That's fantastic. It's such a reality for all of those moms out there.
They can sleep, but they choose not to. The other night, Rose gets up midnight. She was just literally sitting outside of her bedroom door with her thumb in her mouth. She looked like a hobo on the side of the road. And we're like, Rose, what are you doing? And she talks out of her head and was like, oh, you were sleepwalking and you just ended up there on the floor. And so now we're all up to put you back to bed. I want to be that saint that those parents cry to frustratingly and say, help.
So my daughter is 9 months, about 9.5 months right now, almost 10 months. It's crazy. And I swear she is the smartest person ever because she will wake up in the middle of the night and then she'll like be, her crib's over, if you imagine, crib over here, right? And she just goes into the into the baby monitor, just turns and stares. They know. I swear she's gonna like grow up and just like really be like climbing out of her crib and just staring right.
Oh, yeah.
Staring right at me.
We still have a baby cam, and I mean she's 2.5, almost 3. And one time I can talk through it, and she was getting out of her bed to like pull toys into her bed, so I just talked to her through it. And literally now every day, don't talk to me through the camera. Like she'll remind me not to do it. I did it one time months ago, and I get fussed at. So they're awesome. Smart. They are smart. It.
That's awesome. Well, aspiring patron saint of moms or
moms of toddlers who wake up in the middle of the night.
Moms of toddlers who wake up in the middle of the night. Well, Katie, thank you so much for aspiring to be that saint and living it out. I just want to thank you for being on the show and thank you
thanks for having me.
The person that you are. I think when I look at speakers out at conferences, sometimes you can hear a speaker and I think be like, wow, I won't be that holy or I won't ever, attain that or whatever. You are a person that makes Catholicism very approachable and very like you just feel like you can like attain it for yourself. And so I just appreciate that in you.
I'm taking a picture so we can put it on Instagram. Thank you, Nick. Yes. I appreciate that. I do. Yeah. And truly, thanks for having me. It's always fun to get to do this kind of stuff.
It's awesome. It is fun. I love it. It's a good time doing this little podcast stuff. So keep it real. Keep brushing up on your office trivia. And thank you for tuning in to the Nick Longo Show. Take care, everybody. God bless.
You have to be your biggest fan. And when things are really tough and they're really rough and nothing's working, but there's something inside of you that says, I just have to follow that. Because you don't know who you're going to be, who you're going to be, who you're because you don't know who you're going to be.
Wow.